Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 12 of the VR Inside podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathie's YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at 4 p.m. in Europe, 3 p.m. in the UK, and 9 a.m. in central US. If you missed the podcast, you can catch up with it every Sunday where I upload the whole show to my own YouTube channel, Virtual Reality Oasis. If you want to listen to the audio-only version, you can check it out on iTunes and Google Play Music. If you've got any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, chuck them in the chat and we'll try and answer as many as we can. I just want to wish everyone also stateside that you've had a happy Thanksgiving. And now I'm just going to introduce you to everyone in the room. So he has become the dealer for my new addiction, and that is pepper nuts. It is Nathie.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, you like pepper nuts?
I love pepper nuts.
Yeah?
I literally love them.
Pepper nuts? Is that how you...
Is that what you...
No, that's not how you
called?
pronounce it. Pepper nuts.
What are they? Hang on, how do you do it?
Paper nuts.
Pepper nuts.
Paper notes?
So basically, to give you a bit of background about this, Nathie sent me some nice little cinnamon biscuits from the Netherlands, and now I absolutely love them, and I'm addicted to them. I've actually eaten them all now, so I'm out. So I'm kind of like on a come down from the pepper nuts. But thank you for that, man. Thank you very much. So the next guy, he has been spending all his free time in Skyrim and has become the new Lord of the Vale, and that is Zimtok5.
Oh wait, Lord of the Vale, you say? All right, fine. We'll have to.
Here we go.
We'll have to do something then for.
Here we go.
All right, that's it. We're all good. We're better now.
We're good.
So for our audio listeners, you know, Zim is currently wearing his Skyrim mask. It's very, very good, actually. It's very good. I'm very impressed. I believe your wife made you that. Is that right?
She did out of duct tape and paper. She's a pro.
She's very creative, man. She's got some mad skills.
Yeah.
I'm great, Mike.
Can you do a spell now? I mean, you're wearing it, so that should work.
So next up, it is the Rowdy Piper, the rowdy guy himself. How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for asking.
Yeah.
And last but not least, myself, the host of the show, the bearded bald guy, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. As you can probably tell, there is an absence in the room. So Prometheus Austin, unfortunately, has left the show. So he's decided to spend some more time on other things in his personal life, and he can't make the show anymore. But we just wanted to say that we really appreciated his time that he spent with us on the show, and we all wish him the best of luck in the future. So thanks for being a part of it, bro. You will be missed. In this week's show, we've got a lot to talk about. We have got Skyrim VR. We've got Doom VFR, haptics, which is some haptic feedback gloves. We've got Coco VR, which is made by Pixar. We've got an awesome experience called Dispatch to talk about. And finally, we're going to finish it up on The Void, which is kind of like a warehouse scale VR experience. So I'm just going to kick it straight off with Skyrim VR. So Bethesda released Skyrim VR on the PSVR on the 17th of November. And this weekend, obviously, has been Black Friday. So there's been some amazing PSVR deals. And many of those deals has had Skyrim bundled into it. So there was one particularly great one, which was like $350. And that had basically a PSVR, Move controllers, the camera, and Skyrim, the game. So maybe that has something to do with like the great sales that it's seen, because funny fact is that Skyrim on VR has actually outsold the Nintendo Switch version, which is very interesting indeed. Yeah.
Wow.
But like I say, that may be because it was bundled with a PSVR and had this like Black Friday deal. So maybe that kind of makes the sales kind of bit out of skew a little bit. But yeah, on paper, it's outsold the Nintendo Switch version. So that is very interesting indeed.
Could also be that kids own the Switch more than more than people who should be playing Skyrim.
Could well be. And I'm actually ashamed to say that I have never actually played Skyrim before. But I understand that you guys have been spending a lot of time in this magical world. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I also did the giveaway with the PlayStation VR to celebrate the 50K mark. I'm playing a lot of Skyrim actually. I'm actually really enjoying it as well. There's been I've done like three live streams I think, and then one just regular. But it's a lot of fun. You know, it really feels as if you're playing Skyrim. And of course there are bugs and it's a little bit of an older game, but it really feels like the first big open world title that actually hits a VR platform, in my opinion. I think that's a great addition to the. And it will convince a lot of people to buy VR.
Yeah, and you're right in that it's an old game because it's about 6 years old. Am I right?
Yeah.
And did you play the vanilla version of the game before the VR version?
I did. I played it when it just released. I played the full game. I didn't try any of the expansions yet. I haven't gotten into that. Although they might even be better than the original game I heard. But I'm actually really excited about diving into them as well in my little spare time that I have.
So with the expansions, are they included in this VR sort of version of it? That all the expansions are included with it, or are they going to be DLC later on down the line? Do you think?
I know there's like a couple of the expansions. I don't know if all of the expansions are in there. I know Dawnguard is in there.
There's three.
There's three are in there. Yeah.
And is the horse armor included in that bundle? Because I know that was kind of like a controversial kind of a bit of DLC, right? Like the horse armor, is that right?
Why is that controversial? I'm really curious now.
Well, because
transaction.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first ones, and it was just like a cosmetic thing, you know, like you have a fancy horse.
Yeah, but that was like the
if that's your bag, then yeah, like fine.
Yeah, that was like the Elder Scrolls Online game, by the way, not Skyrim.
Oh, was it? That just goes to show how much of a noob I am when it comes to Skyrim. So apologies for our viewers that will probably roast me for that. So.
Yeah, I suppose, Mike. I mean, the thing I would say is, I went into Skyrim. I knew like nothing. I probably knew three things. I knew Fuzroda, I knew Arrow to the Knee, and I knew that Skyrim was a game that was continuing the Elder Scrolls series. And that was probably all I knew going into it. I had played a little bit of, I'd seen my brother play Morrowind back when we were teenagers. And then I played Oblivion about like the first hour, and that was it. Like I'd not had like any engagement in it. All I knew was that these games were like stupidly long. That was all I knew, and that there was like loads of content. And having seen what Morrowind was, and that was such a favorite for people, I was kind of like, well, I don't know if it's my kind of game. You know, I was fully expecting to pay the price, which for me was like 50 quid. So that was not cheap. But a lot of the PSVR titles that are, say, pseudo AAA or AA are like that price. They're like 50 or 60. So it's one of those false economies where people go, oh, I'll go for the cheaper headset. And then they don't realize that they have to spend 400 quid on games. Like, I mean, that's kind of part of the package. But PSVR as it is great. And then I've played kind of all the big things like Resident Evil and Farpoint and stuff like that. So to compare against those, I'd just say that I did not realize that a game world could have so much content in it, and to allow you to just free roam to the extent that I free roam when I'm playing Minecraft. Like I'm the worst person in the world to kind of go and build something. I'm great for just wander for like 6 hours. So maybe that explains why I spent 26 hours last weekend in Skyrim and only completed 3 quests. But It was literally probably my favorite VR experience, and certainly best single player experience, and longest time in a VR title yet in the last 4 years. So I was floored by it. I still am. It's so much fun. And I didn't realize that the environments that were created for non-VR could be uplifted so well. Like, I'm super convinced. And as Rowdy said, this is, to me, is a material turning point. Like, this is now setting a bar from which other titles of this nature are going to be set. And the fact that we've got 2 other Bethesda games coming, I'm like, holy God damn, I'm really looking forward to stuff that I was totally expecting to come on today and just slate, you know, be like, this is, do not put your money in this, but it's great. I am telling people, buy the console to play the game.
Yeah, and the thing is that since you mentioned indeed that they set a bar, that's something that Bethesda has done actually before as well with the other titles, because Morrowind was like a game-changing thing. Like, they changed RPGs just in general, like to have literally an open world in which you could basically do, you know, you could do the quest, you could do the main quest, but you could spend hundreds of hours in that game, not even touching the main quest. And I think that they gave that freedom to a player was something really game changing. And I'm so happy that they decided to bring that to a VR platform as well.
And last time, just before the stream, Zim, you said that you've got a percentage complete. What is that percentage again?
It's 3%.
3%, and that's after 26 hours.
That's after about 40 hours now, because I've been streaming it throughout the week.
Wow.
And it's just one of those things that I mean, if people are interested to see what Skyrim VR looks like, they can go check it out. It's running live right now, even on ZimTalk 5 TV over on Twitch. So I've been running it all week. So I did like the 26 hours. And for people who are interested in seeing it, I mean, we had like 70 people watching reruns, you know, because it's such a cool game to watch as well. Like seeing people draw a bow, and the bow, by the way, is totally overpowered. Like I didn't play the original. I don't know how. I mean, there's like a bow timing, I guess. You have to like draw an arrow, shoot an arrow, draw an. In this, you're bloody Legolas. You're like, and then the thing goes down. Yeah. Goodbye, troll.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
No, but that's like typical for an open world game. Like when I started playing Skyrim and also Fallout on PC, I was like, okay, I'm going to play the first quest, and then it's like, hey, what is that building? Oh, hey, but what is that like running over there? Oh, it wants something from me. Oh yeah, well, never mind. Hey, I see a castle. Hey, nice. So that's how you keep on, and then after a while, you know the whole map, and then you start to like pick some quests. So yeah, but it's really nice. I think that this will like set the bar for other developers too, where we see more classic games come to VR because it did prove that it works. I still think that the like gameplay wise, if you are into VR for a bit longer, it can be a bit disappointing. I mean, yeah, it's of course a part of VR game, so you know what you get, of course. But still, I mean, with the menus, it was fine. I think that how they did the menus, where you can use your controller and just hover through everything, is very easy.
Works
very nicely done. Not like touching buttons with your controller all the time. Super easy, but it's just like, you know, let's say if Skyrim had that Garn/sword fighting simulator thing in there, and all the things we have in those other titles, man, oh man, then it would be freaking crazy. But in the end, it's a fairly simple way of you playing the game. You know, you can swing your sword. You don't need to be very specific with the bow and arrow. You need to, so that's really nice. But yeah, I think it's very. It has been like it. You know, I expected it to be a little disappointing after I played the demo, because it was like, are they ready for the launch? And they were definitely ready for the launch. Yeah, and I think that Fallout is going to hit a big bomb too, in a way. You know, I think that a lot of people are going to play that. And with Doom, I'm not sure. I mean, Mike also mentioned that Doom is fairly cheap, so I expect it to be very short. It would be funny if Doom is going to be the worst of those three games. Well, it has been built from the ground up for VR, you know. Yeah. But let's say if Skyrim, but it's an old game, so they couldn't really change it. They had to work for years to make that like a proper VR game, you know, where you could interact with things, grab things. So I think they did a great job. And for developers, it's so easy to do this. And for us VR community, it's
refreshing.
Getting so much more popular.
Yeah.
But Doom, that's a really important thing to just mention, because there was the news about Locomotion that dropped as a kind of like someone's, I don't know if it's someone's played it. I saw it on Reddit though, but they were saying, because everyone's, I think, who's seen the videos has seen the dash mechanic, which seems to be the default. In other words, you go to a location, it shows you moving there fast. And a lot of games are starting to use this, which is like a comfortable way to not do a blink teleport. So instead, you're just traveling there quickly, and it still doesn't vex your stomach from a sim sickness side. Yeah. But I haven't seen a single video yet of smooth locomotion in Doom. I'd be really interested if how do you keep the pace of that?
Yeah,
like
running I've seen one video, but they weren't really fighting. They were just walking through a room. It's just funny that they announced this in like a silent way again, almost like they are ashamed of walking loco. Well, it's something you really need to announce because people love it.
I think it's a design for it, though, isn't it, Nathie? I mean, if you're a studio, especially as big as Bethesda, you have that debate internally. You say, what are we going to push? What's going to be our banner? And clearly they've said, well, Dash is going to be that because it feels the best. Our mechanics work the best with it. So I wouldn't say that they're ashamed of it, but I think the big question is, was it a last-minute bolt-on? Will it work properly end-to-end through this game? And the other piece of surprise news for me was I didn't know this was going to be, it wasn't going to be Doom and the full Doom package. Again, it's actually a design for, so like the great applaud and award that the original Doom had a couple of years ago when it dropped, you can't guarantee that this content is that good. So I agree with you. This is definitely the biggest rogue factor out of the 3 Bethesda games that's dropping.
So with Skyrim, does it have different locomotion options, a bit like the new Doom title? So you can teleport if you're not comfortable with full locomotion.
That's the default.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the default. I mean, if you want smooth motion, you've got it. And this is a big thing we were talking about actually as well. I think Rowdy, you probably corrected me on this, but the smooth turning at the moment. So if you're on D-pad or if you're on a DualShock controller, you can do smooth turning.
Yeah.
So you can do like proper, just smooth locomotion, smooth turning, which is the kind of thing like veterans like me really enjoy. And then with the move controllers, you're limited for the moment to snap turning. But Rowdy, I think they said that they're going to bring in with a patch smooth turning.
I don't know if they actually confirmed that they're already going to do that, but there's been a lot of question from the community. So I guess that with the next patch, they will include that. But the thing is, with the move controls, indeed, you have like those two bottom buttons, and you press those to get like a certain snap turn, and you can do that indeed gradually. That it like moves like this, like in gradations, basically. Or you can do it that it's like instant, so it snaps then. It's a snap turn or the smooth turn, but it's not like that you can control the gradation of the turn then. So if they would just make that gradation of the turn smooth as well, then they could actually fix that really quickly. I do have to say
with both control schemes. I was going to ask you what your preference was.
Yeah,
I have a preference, and I'll say it.
I have a preference as well. Like I use the instant for that one because I find it really unnerving when I use the gradation. Like it turns and it takes like a second or something before it's like there. I find that like a really
with like the
weird
shadow
experience.
view.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it doesn't vignette, Nathie. No, it doesn't vignette. You can turn that off.
You can turn it off. Yeah, you can turn it off.
Yeah, I think vignetting is one thing. It's strange because these comfort options to me are really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but I think someone who's not used to VR motion, they help them. But to me, like it makes me not feel right.
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
Vignetting is like when there's a tunnel vision applied, so you don't see that much. It's the same that they do to horses with the blinders on.
Take away a bit of the
You said this
peripheral.
before, haven't you, Rowdy? Like you said before that these comfort features tend to make you more sick than.
Yeah, the first thing I do in any kind of VR game is turn off all of the comfort features, just because I don't. It doesn't make me feel more comfortable because I think I've played like games that have really bad locomotion just in general, and I think that like made me a little bit more resistant to those kind of things, and that I prefer to have it as natural as possible, so that I can just figure it out myself. But indeed, like I would like to see like a smooth moving of the head included in Skyrim as well. What I do have to say is that I did have quite a bit of trouble getting all of the controls in my head because there's like a lot of stuff.
But
once you do it, it's fairly.
The control design is great. It's on both.
It's true.
I was really impressed at how much they were able to get out of those controllers.
Yeah,
and also the move controller's battery life. I went straight for 15 hours and they didn't go flat. I thought they had like 6 hours in them. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
I think in my opinion, but that's Skyrim, like the classic Skyrim, you do the tutorial while playing. But I think for VR, they should have done one before and explain everything, because you had to do some stuff and you're like, oh shit, how do I need to walk around now? And I think that they should have done that instead, where you have like you're in some kind of like hologram maybe, where you need to do all those movements. It's kind of hard to get into it in a way, I think they could introduce that in a more satisfying way. It's kind of because the game is kind of old, it doesn't really meet up with the other introductions we had in other VR games.
You mean the very beginning, Nathie? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Yeah.
Like a
don't remember
tutorial.
the
More
beginning.
clear in a way.
I don't remember it at all.
Because I remember previous episodes when we were talking about like Skyrim coming out in the future, there was a lot of concern about because it's a very menu heavy game, but you guys seem to think that that's not been an issue with the release and they've kind of nailed it in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I agree.
Interesting.
The sweep motion. So what Nathie was describing earlier with the move controller, a lot of people were asking me like, well, hang on a second, how's he moving? He doesn't have an analog stick or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So on the left move controller, if you're using move, you hold down the center button, and then that moves you forward. So kind of like, it's kind of like where I think it's where your controller's aiming or where your head is aiming. You can decide. I think.
Yeah, you can
on which
decide
one you
that.
want.
You can decide.
So like even riding a horse, you can have the horse going forward or off a mountain, and be drawing a bow and pointing at something, and shoot a rabbit on the go. Like it works incredibly well. And so the move controller surprised me to the point where, again, I've spent about 40 hours in the game now through the various sessions. Rowdy said, it's difficult to kind of learn the button mapping because actually every discrete button does a different thing. Usually what you find is duplication in games. They used every button essentially. And so that takes a little while to kind of get into your head. I'd say a couple of hours even. But then once you've got it, I prefer the more casual version of the move to the DualShock. I think if you're going up against like a really hardcore boss or something, then you probably want to use the DualShock. But I'm playing it on expert, and I haven't had an issue so far. I think companionship in the game is something. If you miss that, my companion has been brilliant. So like, pick up someone who can fight alongside you and play in the game. But Mike, I think you're going to have to find a way to play this game.
And also,
that kind of brings me on to go on, Rowdy.
Yeah, also I wanted to touch on that real quick. Like, since I think that we all had like a little bit lower expectations for the game as well, that we were a little bit surprised about it, because of course there are like quite some issues still with the game that I find personally, like Nathie said as well. Like, it would be nice to see like we all knew they were going to use like move controllers and that the control schemes were going to be a little bit more complicated because they were not going to make those puzzles that you can interact with the puzzles and with the hands as well, because it's still a ported VR game. But indeed, it would have been nice to see that included as well. Like take that really to the next level and see like if like those move controllers can also like interact with the puzzles. You have like those puzzles where you need to like turn stuff around and not real, but it's just basically pressing a button. But I think that all of us kind of already realized that it was going to be that way, that they were not going to be able to make a ported version and then include that kind of hand control as well. So I do think that is what lowered our expectations a bit as well, and that made us feel so great about this game.
Yeah, that's true. It's just for me, like, if someone is new to VR, then I'm not sure if they should go for Skyrim first, because there are so many awesome VR games that use motion controls in its full potential, and that's not what Skyrim does, for example. Of course, Skyrim is like a thing you play later on. It's like, wow, amazing. But since they advertised it so cool with like someone welding the swords and then doing crazy things, people don't see the difference between native VR and ported VR. So that's kind of like the issue you have here, where people don't know the difference. They expect every game to be like what they played before. If you want to drink a potion in Skyrim, you just point a button and then you drink it. It's not like you're gonna drink it like that, or you're gonna actually ride a horse and you need to hold your moves in a way. Riding a horse was surprisingly cool too. Really nice. Yeah, I like that.
I haven't been able to do that yet.
At night and having that old school soundtrack that you heard many times before and that never gets boring is just great. And then you see some animals and you're shooting a bunny and you take it with you and you're like, okay, I need to walk for like maybe 10 minutes more, but there are like some bandits on the left, so I will just take that shortcut on the right. That's Skyrim. It's like the PC adventure I had works totally fine with VR too. It's not like VR is clumsy, I can't do this. It's exactly the same. It works so well, and the controls are so basic, and it's still. That's also because this year we didn't have that many kick-ass titles, so having this as like the fireworks is of course amazing. It's fantastic. That's what I said in my review as well. Like, it's unbelievable. A couple of years ago, people were still playing Skyrim with far backs, and now you got like positional tracking. And you can walk around. It's just that I do hope they will add a guardian system next to the smooth movement. Because there is like a map in front of you, the compass, But since you move a lot and you're fighting, it's kind of hard. You know, you need a point on the ground to stay there, because before you know it, you're walking away. So I do hope they will add that, like they did in Farpoint, you know, where you have like grid behind you. So if
Yeah,
you
that
turn
was
around,
very
you
well
see the
done there.
grid. I think that would be a lot safer, because people think that they can just ride a dragon. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the trailer of Skyrim VR, but the guy's jumping off a cliff. Let's not hope people are going to jump out of their window because they think they can.
I've shown
Yeah,
the trailer a couple of times.
So right now, obviously, Skyrim VR is a timed exclusive for PSVR. So it is timed exclusive. So we believe it's coming to PC at some point in the future, but not quite sure when. And that's probably when I'll jump into the game and check it out. But for me, like Skyrim is just such an overwhelming thing for me, because it's just such a huge world. You know, like Zim has put like 40 hours into the game. He's only complete like 3%. And I'm a bit of like a completionist. Like I like to complete games. And I just like know in my mind that I'm never going to finish it. Like unless I just don't sleep for a few months and just dedicate my life to spending it in Skyrim. So in a way, it's kind of like taking that blue pill. You kind of have to make a choice in your life whether you're going to have to commit to this or not, or, you know, maybe you should play some throwaway 20-minute titles. I don't know. But I'm glad that this exists, because this is what people have been asking for such a long time. But I really would love to see the statistics in like a year or so's time, to see how much time each player spent in this world, and whether, you know, what are the percentage of players that actually got to like a decent completionist level, like 70% or whatever like that, because that is such a long period of time. And it kind of brings me on nicely to this guy. He's been playing Skyrim on a treadmill to stay fit. So what he's done is he's kind of taken his PlayStation VR and his Move, and he's basically put it right in front of a walking treadmill. So when he's playing Skyrim, he's actually walking on a real life treadmill. And he's saying like it can take him, you know, 3 hours to walk from a place called Whiterun to Rorikstead. I don't even know what that is, but he said it took him 3 hours. And during that 3 hours, he was like plodding along on a treadmill. So like, like we've mentioned it before, gamers of the future are going to be like the most fit and healthiest people in the world. Well, their skin will be like pale, and they may not be like healthy in terms of the food they eat, but they'll be like pretty like slim and fit.
Yeah. Dude, I need a fake horse, man. I need a fake horse now. No, that would be like, that would totally fit. If I sit on the horse and I see the horse in front of me, and I got that sword, and I'm just, that would totally work. Totally.
Yeah.
Work.
So it's crazy, and I love that this exists, and I'm really excited now to sort of think about what Fallout 4 and Doom, obviously VFR, is going to be like. And that kind of brings us on nicely to Doom VFR, because obviously that's coming out really soon. It's going to be out on the 1st of December for PSVR and the HTC Vive. And a lot of Oculus users like myself have been asking the question for a long time now, whether, you know, this is going to see some support for the Oculus, whether it's going to kind of work in a way, even though it's not officially supported. But I guess we still don't have any information about that. So we're going to have to wait until next week's show. And I'd imagine I'd have got to try it by then to let you guys know what the score is. But like you touched on, Zim, this isn't the original or the newer version of Doom. This is a completely separate story, built from the ground up in VR. And you know, apparently, according to the sort of the blurb, you kind of wake up, you're instantly killed almost, and then your brain is transported to different bodies essentially, which you can control throughout the world. And I think there's a bit in the trailer where you see like a kind of mechanical hand that you can control, which is really, really sweet. So I'm really looking forward to this one. But like you say, it's £19.99, $29, and I think we've said before the stream, Nathie, that you're kind of concerned in a way that you're thinking it might be quite a short experience compared to obviously the epic Skyrim.
Based on the price. I mean, yeah, sometimes we have games that come out and they, let's say for example, Wolfenstein from Bethesda, the Old Blood. I think I paid around 20 for that one as well, and that was really decent. So maybe, but it's VR. So I don't know if that's gonna be like something that is gonna be great too. Then I don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bit of a one-time title, isn't it? Because it's gonna be 6 to 8 hours, is what the dev is saying.
I just hope, even if it's short, I just hope they will catch that Doom feeling, that classic fast-paced, get ammo. If you stop moving, you're dead. That kind of stuff, you know. But I do know a developer that works on the game, so we might invite him over and then see what he has to say, or someone else that wants to tell us something about it and get us hyped up. You know,
could work. Yeah, definitely. Like,
right, it's only a week away.
Yeah. Exactly. What do you guys think? Do you think the Rift is going to work with this title? I think that's the question that most people are asking right now.
Definitely.
You think it will work 100%. Out the box?
Yeah.
With no community modding or any tweaking or anything? Interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. No, I don't know. I mean, have you guys heard about Payday? They had like no support for touch.
The first one that had that problem, and I don't think it was intended either, because within a day the devs had patched it out so that it would working. So I think it's a strategic mistake if Bethesda decides, along with id Software, if they decide like, you know, we're going to launch this and half of the potential market we're going to cut out and piss off. You don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Plus, they have more power if they let Oculus users buy their game. It's kind of a troll either way, you know, so it doesn't really matter.
So that's exactly what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that although they say it's coming to PSVR and HTC Vive, that if you buy it on the Rift, it's just going to work.
Yeah, it's just not going to come to the platform.
Yeah, it's not going to come to Oculus Home.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Does that affect any of us?
No. And that is another thing that I've found actually with a lot of Oculus users is they don't tend to use Steam VR. So if you are an Oculus user, I would say just don't be scared. Jump into Steam VR world. Like, things are much better now than they used to be. And a lot of titles seem to work very, very nicely with the Rift. In some instances, when you've got like a game releasing on both platforms, I can't tell the difference between whether it's on an Oculus store or the Steam store. Whereas in the past, I used to be able to tell the difference because the quality would be a little bit different, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
And if it wouldn't work, then it would probably work within like a couple of days, because there's so many people that would get angry about that.
Yeah, like we have such an amazing community of people that are so passionate about it that they will work day and night to make sure that this comes to the platform, even if it's not officially supported. You're absolutely right. So, you know, I'm very, very excited. Out of all the titles from Bethesda, this is the one that I'm personally looking forward to the most. So I'm probably going to pre-order it or something like that. Or buy it on the day it comes out and check it out. So hopefully by next week's show, we should have an answer whether Doom VR VFR will officially work or not, and whether it's any good. But I'm pretty sure in the back of my mind, it's going to be a pretty sweet game.
I mean, it's the first like test for Bethesda to show off like a game that has been built from the ground up for VR. So they might get into it a little slowly, but I mean, they got Doom as like their flagship in a way for VR then.
I do see this indeed as a lot as like a test, like to see like how far can we push this platform, because I think like the Skyrim and the Fallout titles are like more like, well, we know it will bring in an audience, but let's try like a franchise that is very popular and was even more popular a while back, and see if we can bring a new title on that platform and see how people like that and merge that in between like the two other ones. I think that's the strategy they're going about.
Yeah, and it's also a chain of sales. If you like Skyrim, you're having an absolute blast, you want to experience more in VR, and then they start selling a bundle where you can get all the games together. Right now that's not gonna be like happening, because Skyrim VR is a PlayStation VR exclusive, expected to come out to PC on like maybe 6 months, right?
Actually, you know what, Nathie? You just made me think about this. If you're a parent with a teenage kid, right? Boy or girl, doesn't matter. PSVR with fucking those 3 games. Damn, you're gonna blow your kid out of the water with that one. That's a package that I can
imagine. This is so funny. There have been so many games this year, VR games coming out, and Bethesda is like, bam. Like nothing else is relevant anymore.
Yeah,
it's so simple. Like that's why AAA developers are so powerful.
And I think it's a good thing as
well. They're gonna like milk out Skyrim again, because they brought out Skyrim so many times, and now the VR version and Switch. But then like you really see that people really appreciate it, man. Like the VR version is great, and they offer 3 genres of games too. You know, like if you don't like Skyrim, then Fallout is more like a shooter kind of adventure scavenge thing. I mean, Fallout isn't that old either, so that's gonna be freaking awesome.
And I think it's a great thing for like other developers as well, because there's gonna come a time that people say, okay, like I played like 40 hours of Skyrim now. That's more than enough.
Yeah.
Let me see what else is on the Steam market, and then they get to other titles as well. So as long as it convinces people to like get into that VR scene and have a great time, then people will keep on investing in it, and that will be great news for other developers as well.
It's easy development too. It's a lot cheaper because you already got the game there and you just add some support. It's just that I don't hope that all the developers will think like, hey, we just got old games, let's all like port them to VR, and we see no real built from the ground up for VR experiences.
Or new IP, right? Because again, the menu system in Skyrim stood out, right? We thought it was going to be trash, but it ended up being, with the move smooth motion for selection and everything, it's actually lovely. But still, it's a menu. Like, why do we have menus? Like, what's the point? Do you have a menu in real life that pops up when you walk through your door in your bathroom? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So in the virtualized environment, like, this more natural method of training is going to come through, once they've developed more from the ground up IP.
I really like what they always do with the holograms, like on their arm. Like you like switch that around and use that as
like some people hate that shit.
I love that. I love that stuff. I really do.
I don't mind it. It's fine. It's the thing that I like, and I find that it works really well. And I think someone mentioned that Doom has this, is if you have something, if you're grabbing something, so grabbing a tool that then does the grabbing or the button pushing for you, you lose the need for the tactile feedback in your finger, and it works really well mentally. Like, you go to push a button with something that you're grabbing, and that just seems to work so much better. Nathie, did you mention it? Is that in Doom or Fallout? A claw something or other you mentioned, I think?
The claw in Skyrim, the golden claw, like the first quest, where you open the door. Yeah, but that was just pressing a button. But an example I can give
you just meant the puzzle, right? I understand.
But an example of where that works really well was, for example, raw data, where you have like that big, what is it, like a USB or something, like a hack tool, and you just, it just clicks in and done. So,
it will work great for Fallout as well with the Pip-Boy. That you like use the Pip-Boy as like a certain device with the buttons on the Vive. I think that could work.
But I like the Pip-Boy again. I'm not sure. Like I think I said it before. In Fallout, when you have the Pip-Boy, so you have it on your arm. Yes, it's there. But when you go a little closer, it turns into a menu too. Like you usually have, but then a little bit more 3D.
Don't you have a Pip-Boy?
Like, beep-a-boop. Yeah, I do have one. Yeah, that one is a lot easier to control with just a couple of fingers. But
there's it to dinner parties, don't you, Nathie?
Yeah, but again, like
just check the time.
But overall, man, it's all those games are gonna be great, I guess. But it's just that I'm missing the fact that I can't holster my sword, or I can grab my backpack to get some potions. That's like the ultimate VR experience. That adds up to the immersion.
That's still something that I want. I want to grab behind my back and like pull out like a giant sword and then go charging at the dragon. That's the experience that I need.
I'll tell you what I'm missing. I am missing multiplayer in that game. The only thing I can think that it needs to add is I want to see someone else walk up next to me.
I don't.
That's it.
I don't.
Mr.
I hate people.
Yeah, but maybe, because Skyrim had a big mod community behind it on the PC platform, right?
Yeah. Huge.
Possibly a bit like what we've seen with Robo Recall, that the developers kind of open it up to the modding community, and then maybe we can do some cool stuff.
Can you
like
PlayStation?
PlayStation?
Well, no. I'm talking to when it comes to PC.
Okay.
Like I like honestly, I don't think they're gonna do mods for PC. Of course, they could earn some money on it because you need to pay mods nowadays. Like back in the day, Skyrim mods were free. They now have like a store where you can spend credits. But I don't think so, because in the end they want to protect the experience of people, and with VR you can get really sick if they allow at least movement mods. But I don't know, maybe they will. It would be nice though, especially if we can boost up the graphics, because you can really notice that the game, at least on PlayStation VR, it has been extremely downgraded. Of course it looks nice, but compared to PC it's of course a lot different. But I hope we will be able to get a lot of settings for that too.
Yeah. It really feels like the PSVR is a really attractive platform right now because, like, you know, I had a friend of mine around last night, obviously showing him the new space that I've got here, so I can actually get people over to show them VR now for a change, which is really, really nice. And he was playing Arctica 1. He was getting so like drawn into it, really loved the game. And then straight afterwards, he was like, so, you know, how much is it going to be for a PC? And I was like, oh, it's going to be quite expensive for a PC. And then it's like 350 to 400 quid for a Rift right now, depending if you get one in the sale. But with a PSVR, you know, it's a much cheaper and more viable option for him. So he's actually thinking about picking one up.
It's such a great deal. It's such a great deal because you can have a full VR setup for like, what is it now? $500, I think. I think $499.
Yeah.
That's unbeatable. And I have to say it as well, like PlayStation is really pushing the VR market as well. Like the amount of advertising and marketing campaigns in my country, for example, I don't know about the US or the UK. I know that in Belgium they currently have something called the PSVR Backpacker, which is a YouTuber from Belgium who basically travels around the country with a backpack with a PlayStation in there. And he goes and they have a website, you can subscribe there, and then he comes by one evening and they just play like PSVR games like the entire evening, and he records it, and then PlayStation uses that as a promotional campaign. It's brilliant.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
That is genius.
Yeah.
So Oculus, if you're listening, we will be the Oculus. Well, I'll be the Oculus backpacker.
Oculus backpacker.
I'll just go around and play Oculus games in your house and demo them. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'll quit my job tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to be the Pimax backpacker.
Yeah, you can do that. So yeah, like moving on from Skyrim then and Doom VFR and Bethesda to some hardware, and we're talking about haptics. And this is haptic feedback gloves. So this was an article by Upload VR, and basically they had spoken to the company, and it used to be a company called Axon VR. They had previously raised around 5 million, and they're rebranding to Haptics, which is just HAPTX. And they were revealing the future of like kind of their haptic feedback prototype, which is a glove. And it kind of uses micro pneumatics and some force feedback pads and bits and pieces in this glove. Like don't get me wrong, like it's a chunky looking thing. Like Rowdy will probably show you guys the video, but and it's got like a real thick tethered cord to it right now, but it is a prototype after all. But what they've essentially developed is these kind of like bendable fabrics that can be sewn into sort of like clothing or gloves or, you know, a suit eventually maybe in the future. And they've got these kind of tiny little air pipes that run along the sort of material. And they've got these kind of things that they call it, which are essentially these little circles that can fill with air. And then essentially, if you had that running across your whole hand, then you can put different pressure on different parts of your hand depending on what you're touching in the virtual world. So the way they describe it is like, say you're touching the corner of a desk, that only obviously the corner of the desk will be represented on the sort of the pixels pressure on your hand. So it kind of feels like you're touching that edge of the desk. So very, very, very cool indeed. And what they've also built into this glove is kind of like an exoskeleton. So when you go to grab like a ball or an apple, for example, the exoskeleton will restrict the movement of your fingers, so it feels like you're gripping it because you've got that resistance. So again, that sounds really, really nice. It's going to have some force feedback in it as well. So it's kind of like an all-in-one device for sort of like haptic feedback, gripping, and all this kind of thing. But you know, it's not quite there. Like it's a long way off because it is so big and bulky, and it's got this big cable right now. But I think it's a nice step towards what we want in future.
So it's only like finger tracking, but or also like the hand palms in a way.
Yeah, so it's got palms in it included in it as well. So it can track your whole hand because it uses a Vive tracker on the back of it right now. So that's the way it tracks, but it does track the fingers moving as well and the gripping. So that's kind of nice. But in the demo, in the video, like you'll probably see now, there was sections where people were putting their hand through grass, and they were kind of replicating the feeling of grass, like sliding across your fingers, but also like picking up animals and them kind of like moving around, or like an insect, like crawling up and down your hand. And then obviously picking up physical items as well, like a ball, for example.
So essentially, you don't want to play this with Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's just what I want to say. Imagine playing this with Resident Evil, like your hand gets chopped off and the claw just goes like...
No, but
But-
we
but
saw
you-
a really
you-
cool
you-
video on this. Actually,
yeah. So we're playing the video now, so you can check it out on the stream. But essentially, like imagine like in Resident Evil when you first go into the house, for example, and there's all these bugs on the table with like the rotten food, and then like you feel a bug like cross over your hand, like that would be really.
Or
cool.
even worse, like if they extend it like to like your entire body, and you all of a sudden feel a hand resting on your shoulder. No.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I think it's very like fundamental that they're trying to work now. Very basic, not aimed at consumer market probably yet. Because to get something like this working, you need to get this in a lot of people's living rooms, I guess. I would say
it's
so.
not even that, Rowdy. It's the software pipe, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Think about it. How is the hardware knowing when you're touching something?
Yeah.
It's got to be in the
Implemented. Yeah.
Oculus SDK, in the PSVR SDK. It's got to be supported by the headset manufacturer. Otherwise, there's no translation API.
Yeah. But that being said, I do find it very cool to see stuff like this develop, because it's like 100%. It's pushing the border, and it might not get implemented within like the next titles, but it is something that is going to be eventually there, and I think it's really cool that people invest time and energy and money, because that's still a huge factor into technologies like this.
Bearing in mind, they got 5 million in funding, so there are people interested in this,
but
willing to back these kind of projects.
Definitely, yeah.
And especially like having been a big fan of Ready Player One, the book, and the audiobook I listen to regularly, that kind of like idea of the future, that just you step into this suit and then you're rigging up and then you're strapping yourself in and just going off onto this different world is amazing to me. And I love the fact.
I would definitely, like, if you are interested in those gloves, I would support those people for sure. I mean, you're not going to back something that is going to be consumer ready in like a year. I mean, I tried the ones from Neuro Digital at Gamescom. They only had like finger tracking, but you could really like feel your like finger scanning on a device, for example. Where you have like your fingerprint, and also like I could play bow and arrow stuff with my hands. It was kind of funny in a way. So I was like grabbing it with my finger, and it was like so much easier. It's kind of like going back to the Nintendo Wii days or something. I don't know. Like I was like, yay, here we go, and maybe the iToy days as well. But it worked so much better than having controllers in your hands. Of course, you're not shooting things usually with your hands, at least not a bow and arrow. But let's say you're doing spells, or a spell fighter could totally work. But again, what Zim's at, like, it's gonna take a while before the developer is gonna build it in. But it's gonna take even longer before this stuff is ready to go, because now like every glove I have seen still uses like a Vive tracker, or has like a lot of cables, of course. So, but we're getting there.
But like
Sorry, go on, Mike.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I've seen something else, another prototype recently, where it's dealing with hot and cold. So, like you mentioned, with like a spell fighter, for example, like imagine in the Unspoken, if you had like an ice, ball that you were making like as a spell and then throwing it at your opponent, and that as it kind of created the ice ball in your hand, you felt like the cold.
I've tried that.
That would be really, really cool.
I have tried that.
You've tried that?
Yeah, on I think it was Gamescom last year. Even there was like a team from Mexico. I forgot the name though. I have to look it up. But it was very interesting what they were doing. They were a university team, and they were exploring different kind of scenarios in virtual reality. And they indeed developed like a glove that like they had like only the fingertips there, and you could feel like sensations like cold, warm, and like electricity. You could feel as well, like in the fingertops. And then you could also do like spells like that. You could like throw them around, and you could feel like your fingers getting warm or getting cold, or like that little tingle of electricity going through. Yeah, it was very interesting to see.
Yeah, I've only just been playing The Mage's Tale actually this week, and that game, I think I just missed it or something, because as a spellcasting game, it's quite impressive start. I've only done a couple of hours in it, but I suppose, Mike, I wouldn't be going for frosty spells right now, as some of you might recognize. It's a bit cold here in the UK at the moment. It's cold, yeah. So I'll just
we're all wearing sweaters.
Yeah.
Give me the beach simulator, please. I'll take some more.
No joke. That's one of the reasons why I jumped into Skyrim that much, because of the great weather in Skyrim.
Oh God. Yeah, up with the graybeards, right, on the misty mountains.
Yeah, winter is truly coming. Yeah.
But in London, they're developing this liquid-based. So you've seen obviously liquid-cooled PCs where they're rotating liquid through to help cool without any fans needed. So you're not cooling with air; you're cooling with water and just conducting the heat away. But there's this cool I'll call it sack-based pressure system where you wear a haptic vest, and there are bubbles, basically unfilled pouches, all over the vest, front and back. And as it's basically for something that Nathie said earlier, Guardian system. So if you're reaching your boundary of the Guardian system, these things inflate to give you a feeling of like almost like you're pressing into a foam wall.
That's cool.
So for safety, it keeps you in that. And also, if you're having if you're in a gun game shooting away or whatever, and you can feel the hits on this, it can just quickly inject and reduce the amount of pressure you're feeling in these pockets around it. It looks really alien.
That's smart.
But
that's
very cool.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I think I've seen a clip of that somewhere. It's very, very cool. I don't know
what it's called. I've missed that. But on this glove on haptics, I saw a clip, a really, really neat one of one of the guys we know, Reverend Kyle, and he did it, and you could see he was watching raindrops fall on his hand, and he said it felt quite legitimate. So although the glove looks like something, like an old Nintendo peripheral, I would say we have to get there. Right? I mean, we're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of looks like the glove from Predator.
Yeah. So that is our future. Hopefully, I think we all hope for haptic suits and running around in a little hamster ball in our little VR Schmeagle caves in the future. So,
Mike, can I just say on that?
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier that was, we expect VR gamers are going to be a little bit more fit than the average couch gamer, right? Yeah. I find, like, especially now, more and more and more, like I don't find myself doing so much room scale because I'm in a relatively small room, but also because I find titles tend to restrict themselves to rather standing and kind of arm swinging in a space. But I recently picked up an Apple Watch, and I kind of been tracking my movement just like you would on a Fitbit or something. And I can tell you traceable metrics on like Skyrim or all the other titles I've been playing. You're definitely clocking up. You're burning calories as you're playing VR. I've definitely found for myself, the fitness through that is helping. So do you guys find any positive effects of VR in that way for yourselves?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, like I'm the same. Like if this was out when I was a kid, my mom would have gone nuts for it because she was constantly like, just get outside and like play outside with some other kids or something like that, and like get some exercise. I'm like, yeah, but I'm playing like Jurassic Park on the SNES, and I love it, so I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, if this was around then I would have probably been gravitated more towards it. My mom would have probably supported it more, I guess. So, but yeah, it's great. You're like you say, you were standing in 16 hours playing Skyrim. Well, that is doing stuff to your body, man. Like, like the fact that you're just standing alone for that period of time, it is great, exercise. So,
one thing not to do, I was going to say before we move on. I've been playing a lot of Vivecraft and Minecraft, and if you turn off auto jump and you have to physically jump up every block and you go from bedrock all the way up to the top of a mountain, let me tell you, your calves are going to burn the next day. Okay? Really want some exercise? That's not a bad option.
I saw that episode. Yeah. It looked hilarious though. Sim was going the entire time like jumping up and down like.
Absolutely.
You won't be skipping leg day that day, that's for sure.
No.
So moving on very quickly to touch on some releases this week. These are kind of more experiences, but they're very, very cool and well worth your time and checking out. You've got Coco VR, which is a Pixar animated kind of experience to celebrate the launch of their new film, which is going to be in cinemas, started this week on the 22nd. It's kind of like a Day of the Dead kind of looking experience, kind of you play a skeleton character, but there's loads of fun stuff you can do within the experience. You can paint your skull, and then you can eventually be part of a band, which is kind of nice. And I'll just say now, like the train ride, it's almost unforgettable. Like it was kind of a big wow moment for me. Really, really great. So I definitely go and check that out. It's free on Gear VR and the Rift. And then also another one, which is called Dispatch, which we touched on very briefly in the past. Zim mentioned it actually about an experience that really sort of was powerful and really made him think and resonated with him like long after he experienced it. So I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I'll check it out. And Dispatch is essentially about a guy called Ted who is a police dispatcher, and he's having like the worst night of his life. And it's an episodic content. Like the first episode is free. It's about 6 to 7 minutes long. And then there's 4 episodes in total, which you can buy through an in-app purchase. I have to say it's one of the first in-app purchases I've ever seen on the Oculus Rift. So that was kind of interesting in itself. But essentially the whole series is £2.29 and about $3. And then you can watch all 4 episodes. The 4th episode isn't actually out yet. So you're kind of left on a bit of a cliffhanger. But I understand that's going to be out very, very soon. But yeah, that's another one that I would definitely recommend going and checking out. And then moving on to our last topic, because we are kind of eating up at the time here a little bit, is kind of moving on from room scale and going on to sort of like warehouse scale experiences, and that is the Void. So the Void is a thing that's fairly new to me. Like I've done a bit of research on it just recently. They're opening up the Void experiences in London, Orlando, Florida, and Anaheim in California. And essentially what it is, it's a big open space that they've kind of mapped out with physical objects in this world. And you have these backpacks on with like laptops in, I guess, Vive headsets. And so you're fully tracked within this environment. And then you walk through it. And then as you're experiencing stuff within the game world, so they've got like Star Wars, Secrets of the Empire, which looks super interesting, and Ghostbusters experience. As you're going through this warehouse with these headsets on with your teammates, you can actually interact with real life objects, and it has real life effects going on around you at the same time as well. So it could be blowing like wind or stuff in your face, or you could be getting warmer or colder, or you could be like big sound effects going on in the background, or the ground could be shaking. But it seems like a really nice experience to check out. They're actually opening up their London branch of this on the 16th of December. Now, tickets are fairly expensive. I think it's like £32 for a Quick Blast in the UK and $30 in the US. And I think the experience will probably last around sort of 30 to 40 minutes. But you can go in with some buddies and have this like amazing warehouse scale adventure.
Be a stormtrooper, so why not?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Just mix everything. It doesn't matter. You don't even need to be good at this.
No, that's right. This is the kind of blurb for the Star Wars Secrets of the Empire. Under the orders of the budding rebellion, your team will travel to the molten planet of Mustafar. Your mission is to recover Imperial intelligence vital to the rebellion's survival. Alongside the pragmatic droid K2SO, your team must navigate through an enemy facility, walking into danger at every turn. Disguised as stormtroopers, grab your blaster, solve puzzles, and fight giant lava monsters in an effort to fulfill your team's orders. That sounds pretty epic.
It's like the closest thing to like a holodeck, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
awesome.
I just love the fact that, you know, this exists because, you know, VR is still quite niche and very small right now. I think we are kind of seeing a lot of growth just recently. But I love the fact that people are investing money into these kind of experiences, and especially with something as big as a franchise as Star Wars behind it. You know, I really hope people go and try this out, because I think it's going to be for a limited time only in the London one. Not so sure about the Orlando and the Anaheim one. But it's only going to be there for about 8 months. So if you want to check it out, I would definitely go and get your tickets now, because I think as soon as people start checking it out and building up the hype around it, then it's going to sell out like an IMAX showing of a film, for example.
And it has been made by the team who also worked on Trials of Tatooine and also on like special effects of the Star Wars movies. So those guys really know what they are doing.
Yeah, is it Light and Magic? I can't remember the full name.
Industrial Light and Magic. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, what we need to do is we need to all team up, meet up in London, and we need to do this as a 4 together. That's what we need to do.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that would actually be cool. Because there's an experience, something like that it's reminding me of directly, is called Secret Cinema.
Yes,
Have any of you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Ever done it?
Never done it.
Oh my God. I did a Shawshank Redemption one. And the thing is, you don't even know what film they're going to do, but you go dressed up and clothes to a certain place. You get bussed off somewhere. Like you have no details about what you're doing. You basically hand over 50 quid on the internet, go onto a place. Like you get stripped down to like your underwear kind of thing, suited up as like a prisoner. And then you're walking through what looks like an old prison. Like it is one of these places where you have to put the faith in the people who are running it. Right. And that's exactly what these are, because I'm just waiting for some horror story to come out. You know, someone gets abused in one of these like VR rooms where you're all strapped in, because you got no defense mechanism once you're in there.
It's all part of the experience.
But it's kind of like room escape stuff. So sign me up.
Nice.
But did you say it's a limited time? Do we know how long it's going to be around for?
I think the London one's going to be around for about 8 months, but it's at the Westfield Centre, so I think it's near Stratford in London.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if we could make that possible, then I would be so up for the 4 of us meeting up and going through that together. That would be so cool. So yeah, that is.
Can you also open a loot box?
The loot box. That's what you want.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's Star Wars, right?
Of course, it wouldn't be Star Wars without a loot box. Although they did take it out. Am I right? They took it out of the game for Battlefield 2.
They're saying in the chat. So now at least we know what ZimTalk is really into.
Being locked in rooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Locked up and throw the key away.
In his underwear.
He likes to be physically restrained.
I thought we said we wouldn't talk about that publicly, Mike.
Exactly. I let the cat out of the bag. So that is the Void. So if you're interested in checking it out, go and check it out at those 3 locations. It's probably going to be well worth your time. It looks super cool. So I'm excited to be potentially check that out in the near future. Touching on a subject that we talked about last week, we mentioned the VR Game Awards, and Zim was right. Resident Evil 7 did win.
Whoa. We're not going to say that Zim was right. We're going to say that Zim guessed the wrong title. I'm not saying it's the right decision. I'm still saying it's Lone Echo.
Wow. That Rowdy's getting a bit rowdy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he guessed the right title then.
I mean, Zim was right. I mean, PlayStation VR community is really large, so
it's just a numbers game. Like the reason I selected it was for my own reasons, but I knew that at the same time, if you look at the other titles, what else was there that was PSVR? I mean, that community is enormous. So, it's just a swing of the vote. Look for the next one. The next one is going to be a tougher decision. And we've got the Steam nominations going on. I'm hoping some VR titles will be pushed into that as well. So I don't know if Mike, if you'd registered that, but the Steam nominations now. So if you have a game that you really enjoyed on the Steam platform, that's VR, then, go promote that, because certainly I'll be voting for all VR titles. So.
Yeah.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, I'd love a VR title to get involved in that sort of system. Yeah, that'd be really nice.
Yeah.
So I just want to wrap it up. Really, have we got any questions from the chat, maybe for us, or about any of the topics that we've discussed today?
Oh, just now we had Eric coming in, and he says that the largest platform is actually the Gear VR, of course, the largest VR platform. That makes sense. Yeah. And then it's PlayStation VR, and then it's PC VR. But yeah.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Eric, indeed.
Yeah, no, he's right, and that's why, like most of the big manufacturers going mobile right now, focuses on mobile. But what we're obviously interested in is the high-end enthusiast level, and we want big advancements in that. So we'll see what happens in the very near future, I guess. Like we discussed last time, Zim's mentioned it. He's sure in his mind that Oculus are cooking something up in the background that they haven't shared yet. They've got to be really. And hopefully we'll find out maybe next year at OC5, I guess.
And we know about Apple already putting their bid in, and there's a few big players moving. I'm really, the other one who I'm really waiting on making the announcement for is the 3 dedicated VR ground up titles, including I think 2 that are new IP from Valve. A lot of people are kind of impatiently waiting for that. We mentioned earlier, like Skyrim proved, certainly to me, and I think to many of the members of the Reddit community and the globe, that a title can be retrofitted successfully. And it just got me chomping at the bit, and a few others chomping at the bit of saying, what else do you want? I certainly want Left 4 Dead. I've said that before.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. 100% behind you on that. That is kind of one game we're really lacking right now, is that kind of From Other Suns experience, but in a zombie type world where you jump in with your buddies and you're kind of moving along this kind of story driven experience. It would be amazing. Yeah. And I would be surprised. I would be so surprised if they're not working on it.
Or survival game, just any kind of survival game where you're just literally it's roguelike and you die, like a DayZ equivalent, or something like that, where you're working together. I want a social survival game of any nature.
Please, Valve, save 2018.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna, unless there's any more questions from the chat.
We have one here that says like, any news on the Knuckle controllers for Vive? Maybe something next year. We will hear something about it. Yeah. But for now, no. It's just a development kit. So become a developer, make a simple game, and before you know it, you got some knuckle controllers. You know, that's it. Also, Eric said that there is a loot box in Star Wars, in the Star Wars VR experience. So yeah.
Oh wow.
I'm very hyped now. I really need to go and open it together with everyone here.
You've got Nathie on board now. You've got a loot box in there. Nathie's in.
As long as it's free, I'm fine. If we need to buy a key somewhere, then that's going to be an issue.
Well, you're going to have to take a pocket full of change in your Stormtrooper's outfit around, so you can put some money in a slot machine.
There's like a person who works at the Void that just takes the money from you. You know, it's like, okay, here you go.
This is the loot box you've been looking for. So, what games have you guys been playing this week other than Skyrim? Just while we're waiting for some other questions. Any other games?
Other than Skyrim, I've played. I've played Lone Echo. I have played Reaching for Petals. Don't know if anyone knows that title. It's a walking simulator, basically.
Okay.
It's
like walking through the woods kind of thing.
Or? Yeah. That's like it's more of like a poetic experience. It's something that got me quite intrigued. Actually, I might even do like more videos on it. I have not really decided on that yet. But it's basically you walk through the forest and there's this voice that is like in a very a storytelling way. It's like describing what you're seeing and describing what is happening and why you're there and why you're walking there. And it tells a story, I think, about two lovers that meet each other. Very, very poetic, very calming.
What was the name of that one again, Rowdy?
I believe it's Reaching for Petals. Reaching for Petals. Yeah, I've played that one as well. And then I've played Undead Development. I've played that one as well. And I probably have played more titles, but I kind of forgot with all the Skyrim going on.
Yeah. What about you, Zim?
I finally buckled down and played the Spider-Man experience. And you're all going to be like, oh, he's going to rip it apart. I'll tell you what, that web slinging, if they had the web slinging from that game, and if it wasn't a soulless advertisement, they took the web slinging from that and put that in something like a Windlands, that would sell like nothing else.
But they don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Felt really good, like the sticky web thing, like pulling stuff. I mean, it's a quality little bit, but I'll tell you, by the end of it, they give you the worst aftertaste I think I've ever had in a demo, where it's like, oh, you've played the VR thing, now go watch the movie or buy the DVD. I was like, the fuck? Like, literally, I was like, what are you doing? You had a quality experience. There's no game, and this is just an ad.
Yeah,
Echo, this is the opposite of what Coco did. Coco was the opposite of that, because Coco was it showed off some technology tricks that I think other devs need to use.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before.
Beautiful, free. I won't spoil it.
No.
Must play. And it's the same thing as Dispatch. It's just a must play. Like, you got to try those things, especially if they're free.
Yeah, you'll see it. As soon as you see it in Coco, you'll know what we're talking about. But there is something in that I have never seen done in VR before.
Very smart. Very smart design choice. But so between those two has just been as well the losing the name here, that spellcasting one, the Mage's Tale.
Yeah.
Which the scale of I actually thought it was going to be kind of a short thing, but having read up about it, pretty lengthy title. Have any of you spent any amount of time in that? Because a couple of hours in, spellcasting's pretty good.
It
played one episode
for a very long time as well. It's
quality's there. Like, quality's there.
I heard that they were working on that since DK1. So
since the DK1 days, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Must not have known about it back then.
What about you, Nathie? What have you been playing, man?
I haven't been playing that much. I mean, I met up with Rowdy at a YouTube party, so I was pretty much KO for like 3 days. Not because Rowdy was so awesome to talk to, but just
very tiring.
Very tiring indeed. Yeah, you're a very energetic person, so I had to
lie down after
days. But I played Undead Development, fun game. If you're looking for a good survival title where you can build a base, then it's very nice for an early access title. And I also played, of course, a bit of VR chat again. That's about it, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. Like one title that I didn't get to play this week that I really wanted to check out, and that is Payday 2 in VR. And I'd actually like I don't want to, because we'll probably talk about it next week's show more. But I'd love to like maybe hook up with you guys and play that title together, because robbing a bank with you guys I think would be a ton of fun. But that's what I want to check out this week. So maybe by next week we'll have some more information about Payday VR, because I know that Zim wants to talk about it. But if we start him going now, then we're never going to finish on time.
Better watch your money.
I'm going to cut the show there.
Yeah.
Unless anyone else has got any final questions for us, then we'll leave it as it is.
Yeah.
We have Paradise Decay saying no one mentioned The Exorcist. Anyone?
no, we did.
Anyone tried that?
Go check out The Exorcist.
We also didn't mention the TP cast, by the way. I mean, it's now out; people can get it.
And that's the thing. Like, there are so many topics we could discuss on this show, but we just run out of time. Yeah. I'll go over it again. So obviously, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that's live streamed every Saturday on Nathie's YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at 4 p.m. in Europe, 3 p.m. in the UK, 9 a.m. in Central US. If you missed the show, you can catch up with it every Sunday, where I upload the whole show to my own YouTube channel, Virtual Reality Oasis, or check out the audio-only version on iTunes and Google Play Music. If you want to talk to us direct, I would say just look us up on Twitter and ask us some questions there if you've missed the show. So that is the end of this week's show, guys. We'll see you on next week's show, and thanks again for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.